So in the previous lecture, we've moved a lot of infrastructure to the board class, preparing the way for the game management to occur. So we're at the state where we're now taking turns. So what modifications did they do for this? So we've seen that they've changed the function component, the square, from a class component into a function component. And what are function components? Function components are components that don't have their own state. They're really meant to be child components, as we see here. So basically, Square has lost all of its internal state, its internal memory. It simply reports props.value here. It handles the on-click, but as we've seen, that is now owned by the board component. So the entire state of the game is now in the board component. So what did they do to change it to be able to take turns, as we see here? X and O and X. We still don't have information about victory yet, but that's on the horizon. But we now are able to take turns when we see it here. Next player O, and when we click here, right? There's no knowledge, of course, as we see. It allows clicks. It doesn't allow the game to be over because it doesn't know victory state. Let's see how it manages the clicks now. So as we've seen, the square component is now a functional component. Instead of having a render method, it simply returns its JSX code. So the props now has been, for the board component, has a new value, right? Props is the state of the component. So X is next is a new characteristic, a new field in the state object. X is next sets out to be true. So now handle click does the copy of the squares. It says, it reads that function. This dot state is next. If X is next, it's going to result in X. Otherwise, it will result in O. This dot set state then, X is next, gets this dot state dot X is next not. So it starts out at true, then it becomes false. When it's false, O is the characteristic that gets put on the board. Notice what happens here. Square sub I is either going to be set to an X or an O. So now we have the ability to take turns. And the same thing here. So next, we'll see about victory conditions.